This Wednesday, August 3rd, MLB Betting Picks edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our Patreon. Score exclusive perks, content, and contests, including our NFL win totals contest with a $1,000 prize. Join today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, August the 1st, currently 5:07 on the East Coast, here to break down our betting picks for the Wednesday schedule. And joining me to help me break it all down, you guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, WNBA, NBA, NFL, and of course, you're on MLB. It's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, how's it going, my man?
Hey, doing pretty well. Looking forward to going through the Wednesday games. I know the trade deadline officially just passed, so we'll see if there's any last-second moves that become official, but it seems like most of the moves are pretty much done.
Yeah, we had some moves. Maybe we'll do like a bonus episode tomorrow early in the day, kind of maybe to recap some of the trades that did go down. Obviously, the biggest one that went down on the trade deadline day was Verlander heading back to the Astros, and that was rumored to happen over the past several weeks, and finally got it done as of the trade deadline on Tuesday. But also joining us here, you guys know him as the voice of the NBA Gambling Podcast, and here on MLB as well, it's Lonte Smith. Lonte, how you feeling, my man?
Yeah, man, doing pretty good. Got a good card. The past few days have been pretty good cards as far as matchup wise. So looking forward to another one tomorrow.
Yeah, some pretty good matchups to start early in the week, and we're kind of getting into that, point of the season where it's starting to drag a little bit. But hey, we're still here grinding out winners as we start to wind down the MLB season. Still have, I think, 60 plus games, if I'm not mistaken, a little less than 60 games left for each team in the MLB. But yeah, still plenty to be decided in some of these divisions. And again, series do continue on Wednesday, and then brand new series starting on Thursday. But gentlemen, do have some day baseball tomorrow. That always gets us through the day, betting on sports during the day. So let's just kick it off here, guys. First game on the board, a 12:20 Eastern start. The LA Angels and the Atlanta Braves are battling it out. I see Lucas Giolito is going to get a start here for the LA Angels, and Yanni Chirinos is going to get the start for the Atlanta Braves. Braves are a minus 155 home favorite, plus 130 on the money line for the LA Angels. Total is set at 10.5. Run line minus 1.5, plus 114 for the Braves, and plus 1.5, minus 135 for the LA Angels. Let's see here.
That's me. I got you.
Yeah, go ahead, Lonte.
Yeah, so I like Atlanta and the over here. The Angels, they've been playing well. They won the first game of the series. Atlanta had a couple opportunities. I think they had a bases loaded in the bottom of the fourth or fifth, maybe, with one out, and they couldn't really do anything with it. But I'm not sure they leave that many base runners stranded. Again, you know, they've scored 4+ in 12 of their last 16 home games. They're 33-21 to the over at home. So I think this sets up for everything Atlanta. I would look at their team total. Also look at the full game over with how the Angels have been hitting the ball. Giolito, I mean, he hasn't pitched over 5 innings in his last 3 games. He was decent against Toronto, but I think, you know, Atlanta's bats will be able to get to him here. They're hitting 273 at home versus righties, averaging 6.3 runs per 9. Chirinos, I mean, he's not going to go deep into the games. He's allowed 7 earned in his last 2 starts. So I mean, if he does get beat up a little bit earlier, that helps our case for the over. I mean, the Angels, they hit righties pretty well on the road, 260. So I think we see some runs here. But all in all, I think the better play is going to be Atlanta. I think anytime you see Atlanta under, 180, 175 at home, I think that's a good bet to make.
Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with the Angels team total over in this game. I do think, once again, the Braves should be favored, but I really don't trust Chirinos at all because I don't think he's very good, and he has not been good his last 2 outings, giving up 3+ earned in each of the last 2, not to mention the fact that he was recently acquired by Atlanta, so he might not be that familiar with the actual ballpark, which is a pretty hitters-friendly ballpark, which is not a good combo for a pretty underwhelming pitcher. But I think the Angels can score runs in this game. I know besides Taylor Ward being hurt, this team traded for a lot of reinforcements recently, whether involving Grishik, who homered yesterday, Crone, who had an RBI single late. We know Otani's still, of course, very good. And you can go down the line. The point is the Angels actually were one of the main buyers at the deadline. And I do think that you're looking at a spot where the Angels can generate some runs against a pretty underwhelming pitcher. Not to mention the fact that I do think, once again, with the hitters-friendly ballpark nature, you might just get a couple of extra home runs anyway, because we know how many home runs are hit in that park. The Braves, once again, should win, but I don't want to lay 155 with Chirinos. So instead, I'm just going to go with the Angels team total over in this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we'll definitely see runs in this game. And Chirinos' first start for the Braves in Atlanta was, I think it was his last game, but that was a final score of 10-7 in favor of the Braves. But he still gave up 7 to the Brewers in that start. He went 3 2/3 innings, allowed 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 strikeouts in those games. And I think Lonte mentioned it. Giolito, despite being respectable in his first start against the Blue Jays as a pitcher for the Angels, when he was with the White Sox in the first game with the Angels, the respective team has lost each of those 5 games when Giolito has started. And again, this time of the year in Atlanta, it's hot. I think that's an understatement, but looking at temperatures, at least early in the day, it feels like 93, 95 with temperature around 92. So the ball should be flying out of the ballpark. So I do expect to see runs here. Even at 10.5, I do like the over. All right, guys, before we get over to the next game of the afternoon for the Wednesday schedule, let me tell everyone about the Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon page. Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon is perfect for the die-hard DGen. Sign up for the Patreon to get access to exclusive contests, including the NFL win totals contest with a $1,000 first place prize, plus a monthly SGP Stories podcast and an ad-free, uncensored show highlighting the best stories from decades of being DGens. There's even a Discord channel just for patrons. The Sports Gambling Podcast has and always will give out all their picks for free. The Patreon is a great way to support the network and fight back against corporate gambling. Get all the details over at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. All right, gentlemen, next game on the board, it's going to be a 12:35 Eastern start. We have the Detroit Tigers. They are in Pittsburgh to take on the Pirates. Seeing Eduardo Rodriguez, who right before we got on the pod, blocked a trade to the LA Dodgers and wanted to stay in Detroit, or at least with the Tigers.
That is a bold move.
Is he an idiot? What the hell is wrong with him?
Bold move.
Is he an idiot?
Hey, man, he's a former Red Sox, and they hate the Dodgers, so maybe that, I don't know. I'm just
He wants to stay in Detroit. He's the only person who has ever wanted to stay in Detroit.
I've never heard of anybody choosing Detroit over Los Angeles. Never in my life.
Yeah, me neither, man. I mean, man, maybe there's something there. Maybe he just doesn't like the Dodgers. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I think that was a head scratcher for every baseball fan that saw that trade get blocked by Eduardo Rodriguez. And I think when I was reading for his contract, he had 10 teams that he has a no trade clause to. For whatever reason, the Dodgers are on that 10-team list. So, yeah, but he does get the start for the Tigers tomorrow. I see Bido is getting the start for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Looking at the lines for this game, the Tigers are a -135 road favorite here, +115 on the money line for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Total is set at 8. Run line -1.5, +124 for the Tigers, and +1.5, -148 for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Scott, what do you got for this game?
I'm going to go with the Tigers on the money line. I think 135 is too low. Pittsburgh has been a bad team for a while now. I'm not saying that Detroit's much better because they basically have the exact same record. But perception-wise, Detroit is viewed a bit higher because their division is so bad. They're still in theory in the hunt, while Pittsburgh's been dead for months. But I think that Rodriguez has simply put the much better pitcher. And I do think that you're looking at Bido, who's okay. But I'm going to go with Detroit in this one. I do think that the Tigers have I just once again think that this team is a little bit better than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a lot of injuries. I thought they would trade off more players over the last day, but they did not. But anyway, I do think, once again, with them trading Carlos Santana, I'm still not sold in this overall lineup. They did win a series over the weekend against the Phillies, but I do think Detroit, with Rodriguez, should get out to a decent lead, and I do think they'll do enough in order to win. Should be an ugly game, but 135 with Rodriguez on the mound against Bido, I think is just too low of a number. I think it should be closer to like 145, 150. So I'll take it now because I do expect this line to move before game time.
Yeah, Pittsburgh has really been struggling against left-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks. Just to put into context, team batting average against left-handed pitching, 151 plate appearances. They're batting 216, which ranks number 25 in the entire league. On base percentage is at, let's see here, number 20. Slugging percentage against left-handed pitching in that span, they are number 27. OPS, they are number 27 as well. And then WRC plus against left-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks, number 26. So yeah, I'm with you on the Tigers here as well. Here, Lonte, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna lean the other way. Not because of those comments, but I think Pittsburgh at home, they've won 6 of the last 10. Bido's been, I guess he's been fine. I'm not really worried about him struggling against a Detroit lineup they're hitting 210 on the road versus righties, 226 versus righties on the season. So I'm not too worried about their lineup getting to him. Rodriguez obviously is the better pitcher. Undoubtedly. In their last matchup, he did allow 4 earned runs in 5 innings of work. So, Pittsburgh's bats, they could have some familiarity there. Just a lean for me, though. It's nothing I'm going to bet personally, but I'll just lean to the home dog.
All right, let's get over to the next game on the board. We have a 1:05 Eastern start. The Milwaukee Brewers, they are in the nation's capital to take on the Nationals. Wade Miley gets the start here for the Milwaukee Brewers, and Mackenzie Gore is going to get the start here for the Nationals. Minus 125 for the Brewers on the money line and plus 105 for the Washington Nationals. Total is set at 9, a little bit of VIG towards the under at minus 112. Run line minus 1.5 plus 124 for the Milwaukee Brewers and plus 1.5 minus 148 for the Washington Nationals. Wade Miley has been pretty solid for the Brewers over his last 5 games. He is 6-2 on the season with a 3.06 ERA, but last 5 starts, 3-0 with a 2.08 ERA. He's allowed just 6 earned runs in 26 innings pitched over that span, and on the road so far this season, 2-1 with a 2.73 ERA. He's coming off a solid outing against the Cincinnati Reds. 6 shutout innings, only allowed 4 hits in that span, and over his last 5 starts, he's only allowed more than 2 earned runs in one of those starts, which was against the Chicago Cubs, who do pretty well against left-handed pitching. On the other side, like I mentioned, Mackenzie Gore gets a start for the Washington Nationals. On the season, 6-7 with a 4.42 ERA. Has struggled over his last 5 games. He does have a winning record with 2-1, but his ERA is at 6.64. At Nationals Park, 2-4 with a 4.04 ERA. His last start was against the Mets. 5 innings in that game. He allowed 3 earned runs, 4 walks in that span as well. Walks have been an issue for Mackenzie Gore. He's allowed at least 2 walks in 4 of his last 5 starts. The Nationals have lost, in fact, 3 of his last 5 starts as well. Looking at the standings earlier, and Washington, for whatever reason, has struggled at home this season, where they have a record of 21-33, and they are 24-29 at home. I'm going to go with the Brewers here, guys. Wade Miley's in great form right now. Milwaukee, again, is in that race for the division in the NL Central. Currently, they are sitting just 1.5 games back of the Cincinnati Reds. I like the better pitcher in form here. And the Brewers have been doing pretty well against left-handed pitching as well over the last 2 weeks. Number 7 in WRC plus, batting average, number 6 against left-handed pitching. On base percentage, number 7. So a lot of the statistical categories for the offense against left-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks is within the top 10. So I feel like this price is cheap, minus 125 on the money line for the Brewers here, Lonte.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Brewers also, but I like the over a little bit more. You mentioned the success that they've been having hitting lefties. Washington's had some good success, 270 versus lefties, 277 at home. In the most recent form, both teams are hitting around 250 in their last 10. Milwaukee 4 runs per 9, Washington 5.6 runs per 9. So I think we can see some runs here. I know Miley is he's coming off the elbow injury, so I mean he's probably going to be effective. I mean I just don't know how effective. He hasn't pitched since July 9th, so we'll see how that goes. I mean I just like both offenses to keep it going here. Despite the 4-game losing streak, Milwaukee's scored 5+ in 3 of the last 5. Washington 5+ in 2 of the last 3. So even if Miley's good, I think once the bullpen gets involved, I think Washington can still have some success. And Gore's been inconsistent. He's been good, but he's been inconsistent. He's allowing a solid amount of contact this month. And, I mean, that's just one of his knacks. That was one of his knacks coming out of high school. He just allowed a lot of contact. So I'll take Milwaukee, but I love the over in this game.
I'm going to take Milwaukee. I think 125 is an insane number for the much better team. I will acknowledge the Nationals have been playing a little bit better lately offensively, but Miley has been pretty good for the most part, and Gore has been fine in terms of recent win-loss record, but as you said before, he kind of gives up 3 earned basically every start minimum, and Milwaukee does a pretty good job of actually making contact. They also got Carlos Santana, so they ended up once again picking up some reinforcements, called up some of the younger guys who have contributed a bit more in the lineup. But simply put, I don't think the Nationals are a good team, and the Brewers are still fighting for a first-place spot in the NL Central. I'm going to go with Miley here at minus 125. I think this line should be a bit higher, probably closer to 140 or maybe a bit more. You can make an argument once again that even if you think the starters are a bit of a wash, which I disagree with, but let's just say that they are for a second, we know Milwaukee's got the much better bullpen. So if you have a chance to have a close game with Washington's bullpen against, everyone that Milwaukee has, I'll take my chances with Milwaukee. So I'll take the Brewers at minus 125.
I also think that the Brewers picked up Andrew Chafin at the trade deadline today as well to add to their bullpen. So double check.
I'm not a big Chafin guy, but at least they're trying to do something.
Yeah. He got traded earlier today to the Brewers. But yeah, I mean, it just gives them an extra arm in the bullpen. Yeah. But feels like definitely a cheaper price on the Brewers for this matchup against the Nationals. All right, guys, before we continue the conversation here, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. The NFL season is right around the corner, and Underdog Pick'em is a great way to get down on a ton of NFL player props, and they're available in a ton of markets, plus plenty of opportunities to win in their daily MLB contests. And of course, make sure to enter Best Ball Mania 4, where first place gets $3 million. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and make sure to use that promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, that's UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code SGPN. All right, gentlemen, next game on the board, we have let me get back to the schedule here. Let's see. 2:10 Eastern start. This is one of the games that does not have a pitcher. It's the Cleveland Guardians and the Houston Astros. I see Tyner Bybee is going to get the start for the Guardians, but Astros don't have a pitcher listed yet. And again, there's no lines on this game either. Lonte, you see anything different?
Nah, it's been pretty much just one pitcher on the board all day. So yeah, nothing much here.
All right, we'll just skip over this game then. Again, with no lines, there's no reason for us to dig into it, and no pitcher for the Astros either. So we'll move over to the next game for the afternoon. This is going to be a 3:10 Eastern start. We have the San Diego Padres. They are in the Mile High City to take on the Colorado Rockies. Joe Musgrove gets the start here for the San Diego Padres, and Kyle Freeland is getting the start here for the Colorado Rockies. Lines for this game, I'm seeing the Padres are a minus 218 road favorite, plus 180 on the money line for the home underdog Colorado Rockies. Total is set at 12.5 with heavy vig towards the under of minus 125. Run line minus 1.5, minus 148 for the Padres, and plus 1.5, plus 124 on the run line for the Colorado Rockies. Joe Musgrove is let me start with Kyle Freeland here. It's really hard to handicap Kyle Freeland. I know he's been a fade material over the past several seasons for the Colorado Rockies, and on the season 4-10 with a 4.79 ERA. Has been even worse over his last 5 games, 0-2 with a 5.74 ERA. He's allowed 17 earned runs in 26 2/3 innings pitched, and the Rockies have lost 3 straight starts started by Kyle Freeland. Combined in those games, they scored a total of 6 runs. 5 of those 6 runs came in one start, and his last start, which was against the Oakland A's. Joe Musgrove has been in great form for the Padres over the course of the season, where he does possess a 10-3 record with a 3.05 ERA, and over his last 5 games, 4-1 with a 1.45 ERA. And on the road, he is 4-2 with a 3.07 ERA. His last start against a really good offense was the Texas Rangers, where he shut them out over 6 innings, and they did get the victory there. And the Padres have won 4 of his last 5 starts, and all 4 of those wins have come by at least 2 earned runs. In his career, though, against the Rockies, Joe Musgrove has struggled. His last 2 starts at the end of the last year, he allowed a total of 11 earned runs in just 9 2/3 innings pitched against this Colorado Rockies team. One was in Colorado and one was at home in San Diego against this Rockies team. I did see a note on Twitter, or X, I should say, that I think the Padres have lost, I would say 7 or 8 straight games where they've been a favorite of minus, I think it's either minus 160 or higher or minus 180, whatever the number was. But
yeah, that's crazy. I saw it too.
But yeah, yesterday was included. So
yeah, including yesterday.
They're 0-10 in extra inning games. Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I obviously you have Joe Musgrove, that's a better pitcher here, but I think the only way you will look at this is on the run line here. But even at a minus 148 price, I don't think I can get behind the Padres on that. I'll lean with the home underdog here. I just think this Padres team is done for. I'm surprised Juan Soto wasn't traded at the trade deadline by the Padres. Not going to be betting this game. Gun to my head. For whatever reason, the Padres just do struggle as a heavy favorite, like they are in this game, of a north of a $2 favorite. I'll roll the dice here with the Colorado Rockies plus 180. And I didn't mention this. Kyle Freeland had an absolutely gem of a start in two starts this season against the Padres. He's pitched 11 innings in those 2 games, allowed 9 hits and only 1 earned run in those 2 starts against the Padres this season. So I'll roll the dice here. Give me the Rockies plus 180 here, Scott.
I think I'm going to agree with you. I was going to make a case for the Padres, but with the actual price, I don't see any value on it.
Yeah.
I actually watched a decent amount of that game in the later innings because I was sweating out a player prop in it. So I saw the Padres strand the bases loaded, no outs in the 10th inning. Then I saw Machado drop the ball on the sack bunt throw to third base where he was out by 10 feet and he dropped the ball, and they lost the game anyway. Yeah, that kind of sums up the Padres season. They're 0-10 in extras. They're just a bad overall baseball team. And like the Yankees, they did basically nothing at the trade deadline. They made 1 or 2 more moves than the Yankees because the Yankees actually did nothing the entire time. But the point is the Padres were supposed to blow it up. Yesterday was a perfect game that kind of was just a sign to blow it up. And they kept the band together. So they've been underachieving all season long. I don't see that changing. The problem with the Rockies, though, is they don't really have anybody that's worth a damn, if you want to just be honest here. McMahon, I know, was decent yesterday. Tovar has been okay lately. They don't really have many quality guys, but you're looking at the bullpen, not great either. Lawrence did pitch a lot. I know he blew the save yesterday, but still. They traded away Brad Hans. They have 1 less lefty in the lineup, but I think he went to Atlanta. But anyway, the point is, I'm going to lean to Colorado. There's really no good reason to take it based on paper. But if it was based on paper, the Padres would be probably 15 games over 500. They're just a bad team. So I'll go with the Rockies to find a way to get it done. I don't know how they're going to do it. Padres might strand the bases loaded 6 times, but I'll go with the Rockies to get it done.
Lonte.
Yeah, it's pretty simple for me. I don't want anything to do with San Diego. I would probably, if I had to bet it, I would be on the side of you guys. Maybe look at a first 5. Maybe get to them early. Maybe if Freeland has it going. But again, I don't want to bet aside. I'd probably lean to the Padres team total, 4+ runs in 3 of the last 5. Freeland, you mentioned that good start he had and the 2 starts he had against him. But recently, 7+ hits in 5 of his last 6 games. In those 5 games, he's allowed 23 earned runs. So it can get away from him. I'll lean to them in the first 5, hoping that he can, keep it together. But if I had to make a bet, I bet the San Diego team total over.
All right. Next game on the board, we have a 4:10 Eastern start. The Boston Red Sox, they are in Seattle to take on the Mariners. Cutter Crawford gets the start here for the Boston Red Sox. And I see Logan Gilbert is going to get the start here for the Seattle Mariners. Mariners are a minus 130 home favorite, plus 110 on the money line for the Boston Red Sox. Total set at 8 with a little bit of vig towards the under at minus 120. Run line for the Mariners, minus 1.5, plus 160, and plus 1.5, minus 192 for the Boston Red Sox here, Scott.
I'm going to go with Seattle in this one. I know Crawford was pretty good last outing against the Giants, but I still think that Gilbert is the better starting pitcher. And I've had a pretty decent read on the Red Sox this season. And even though I do acknowledge they're fighting for a playoff spot, they were so hot for so long that I was kind of waiting for them to cool off. And it seems like they're in the process of cooling off based on how the Giants series went. A couple of heartbreaking losses there. Had the loss yesterday because the bullpen fell apart. But I think looking at the Red Sox based on current form, it does seem like a team that's been kind of up and down all year is about to be on the verge of another downswing. Gilbert's been very good in most of his last couple outings, and the Mariners have been very good in the last couple starts. Seattle has won each of his last 5. To go through his actual runs allowed, he's allowed less than 3 earned in 4 of his last 5. So I'm going to go with Gilbert as the better starting pitcher. Seattle actually been playing a little bit better lately, so I do think once again you're looking at a spot where Seattle might be a bit undervalued in my opinion. But I think the Red Sox, once again, I understand why they're underdogs in the spot, but I do think Seattle could arguably be bigger favorites, and it wouldn't totally shock me here. The only concern would be for Seattle right now. I don't know who their closer is because they traded Seawald away, so I'm kind of curious what they're going to do now at the back end of the bullpen. But I do think Seattle's in better form, and I think the Red Sox are going to slump for the next couple of days. So give me the Mariners to get it done.
Lonte?
Yeah, I agree that Seattle's playing much better. I think Boston's going to get it going here again, so I'm going the other way. They hit a wall a little bit, like Scott mentioned, but they easily could have won those 3 games. They lost 2 of them by 1 run.
That's the tough part. I feel like there was a couple winnable games that might linger.
Yeah.
That's a bitter taste.
Right, yeah, and I think Gilbert, he's been getting hit pretty frequently, 7+ hits in his last 3 starts. Boston bats, they could wake up here and get going. I mean, Crawford's been really good on the road. I had to double take his stats. I mean, 2 earned runs in 10 of his 11 road starts, 2 earned runs allowed or less in 10 of his last 11 road starts.
Yeah,
he's allowed 3 earned and in his last 3 combined road starts. So, I mean, he's been pretty good. And I don't think Seattle's offense, I mean, I know they're playing well right now, but I'm not really a believer in their offense long term. So I think he could have some success here. So I like the road dog here. Give me Boston.
Yeah, I did like the under in this game for everything that you just mentioned there, Lonte, with the form that both these pitchers are in Cutter Crawford and Logan Gilbert. Scott mentioned that the Red Sox offense has cooled off a little bit as well. I think that kind of continues in this series against the Mariners. Mariners, they are playing better baseball. And Gilbert, at least over the last 5 games, has been better for the Mariners. But overall, he has struggled at home this season with a 2-4 record with a 4.67 ERA. But the recent form is what we're looking at here. And again, he's been a lot better than the overall season numbers are telling us. So under 8 was my favorite play in this game between the Red Sox and the Mariners. Next game on the board, gentlemen, we have a 6:40 Eastern start. We have the Philadelphia Phillies against the Miami Marlins. Zach Wheeler gets started here for the Philadelphia Phillies, and Braxton Garrett gets started here for the Miami Marlins. Looking at the lines for this game, the Phillies are a -130 road favorite, +110 on the money line for the Marlins. 7.5 is a total with a little bit of vig towards the under at -120. Run line -1.5, +136 for the Phillies, and +1.5, -162 for the home team, the Miami Marlins. Scott, what do you got for this game?
So both pitchers were actually pretty good on Friday. Wheeler was incredible. He shut down Pittsburgh. He struck out, I think it was 12 guys in 6 2/3, and then the rain got in the way. He might have actually had a potential shot at a complete game there. But the point is, he was great last start. Garrett was good against the Tigers. Then the bullpen blew the game, and then the Marlins won it anyway. But Garrett has really not been great for the last couple of weeks at this point. He had one good start against the Tigers last time out, which once again doesn't really mean much to me, but I think based on the overall pitching advantage, I am going to lean to Philly. I am going to point out that this team is not in great form. I'm aware of that, but I do think when you're looking at the starting pitchers, Wheeler's the better arm. I don't think it's very close, but I do think when you're looking at the talent as well, Philly's the more talented team. I think they'll find a way to get it done. Miami got out to an early lead in the first game of the series on Wednesday. I think they were up 2-0 in the first inning. Then Philly came back. Miami didn't score in the final 8 innings, and that's kind of the concern I still have with this team. I'm not sold on their offense, and I think that's going to be a problem against Wheeler. So I'm going to go with the Phillies at -130.
Of course, I was on the Marlins in that game.
Marlins have been one of those teams that it's just been hard to figure out, especially like over the last couple months. There's games where I think Lonte agrees that when I bet on them, the offense does absolutely nothing. And then the games where I don't bet on them or bet against them, the offense decides to show up. So they've been kind of unpredictable, at least for me thus far this season. But Zach Wheeler, like you mentioned, has been in great form here. And Braxton Garrett coming off a good start against the Tigers, but against the Tigers are a team that struggled against left-handed pitching. That's why he had success in that game. But Braxton Garrett against the Phillies earlier this season, he did get the victory, but he did allow 3 earned runs in 5 innings pitched, and he's allowed at least 3 earned runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. Prior to the Detroit Tigers start, he had allowed 10 earned runs in just 7 2/3 innings pitched against the Rockies and the Baltimore Orioles. So, I agree with you, Scott. I do like the Phillies on the money line here. I think Zach Wheeler will be able to find some success against this Marlins team. And again, I just don't know which offense is going to show up for this Marlins team. Hopefully, the Phillies do provide some run support to Zach Wheeler, because over his last 2 starts, he's pitched really well for them, but he's only gotten a total of 2 runs of support. And both of those runs were against the Pittsburgh Pirates. And then in that start against the Guardians, where it was a 1-0 victory for the Guardians. No run support there, obviously. So, but I like the Phillies here, minus 130 against the Marlins here, Lonte.
Yeah, I'll lean to the Phillies also. I think I'm going to like the under a little bit more. Philadelphia, 54% to the under on the road and 56% to the under on the season. Miami's under in 6 of the last 10. Both of you guys spoke on their inconsistencies offensively. The 56% to the under at home this year. And, you went over Wheeler's stuff. 2 earned runs combined on 8 hits in his last 2 starts. He pitched solid against the Marlins in his last 2 meetings, 4 earned runs combined in both of those starts. And while Garrett, he has his issues with contact, he performed pretty well against the Phillies in their last meeting, 3 earned runs in 5 innings, so not too bad. So I think both teams, both pitchers are going to be in good form here, so I like the under.
All right. Next game on the board, we have a 7:05 Eastern start, probably the pitching matchup of the night.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. In this game, we have the Tampa Bay Rays and the New York Yankees. Shane McClanahan gets started here for the Tampa Bay Rays, and Garrett Cole is going to get the start here for the New York Yankees. The lines for this game, I've seen the Yankees favored slightly, minus 115 on the money line, minus 105 for the Tampa Bay Rays. Total is set at 8 in this game, with Vig towards the under at minus 115. Run line minus 1.5 plus 170 for the New York Yankees, and plus 1.5 minus 205 for the Tampa Bay Rays here. Lonte, lead us off.
Yeah, so I think Scott would probably agree with me. The only time to bet the Yankees, or if you want to bet them, is when Cole's on the mound, because outside of that, it's really nothing more to like about them. Judge should be back in the lineup. I'm not sure what they're doing with him. He's like out for a game and he's back in and he's out. I have no idea. You got Herman coming in saying he can't pitch, and then he comes in relief. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. To be honest with you. I'm going to take a shot on him. I guess I would lean that way. They do play better at home, 32-25. They're a different team with Judge in the lineup if in fact he is in the lineup. The only thing that has me a pause, or it has me on a lean and not a like, is they don't hit lefties really well. So, that's a bit of a concern. We can see a low scoring type of game here with both aces on the mound. McClanahan has allowed 8 combined earned runs in his last 2 starts. He's been a bit up and down to end July versus being dominant in the previous few months. He went 4 and allowed 4 in his previous matchup against the Yankees, allowed 2 home runs. So the Yankees have had some success against them, but again, I don't think lightning can strike twice in the same spot. Cole hasn't had a bad start since May. He's been in really good form. He shut down some solid offenses in that process. Only 3 earned runs combined in his last 3 starts, 10 plus Ks in 2 of the last 3. I'm going to roll with Cole here. He threw a gem versus Tampa Bay in their last matchup, 2 earned on 5 hits. So I'm going to roll with them. I'm not going to lie, I don't love it, but if I had to make a play, I'd lean that way.
You mentioned that the time you do want to bet on the Yankees is when Garrett Cole's on the mound. I'll take that a step further. You probably want to bet on him when he's at home pitching in Yankee Stadium as well, because in 13 starts at home this season, the Yankees are 12-1 straight up in those games. In 14 starts, the Yankees are 12-1. The math's not right there on these websites I'm looking at, but nonetheless, again, Cole at Yankee Stadium this season has been absolutely fantastic on the run line as well, 7-4 are the Yankees on the -1.5 and the +1.5. They're 2-0. So anytime Cole is on the mound at home, I'm looking to back him. You mentioned Shane McClanahan. He has struggled over his last 5 games. He has a 6.65 ERA. He's allowed at least 3 earned runs in 3 of his last 5 starts. And again, like you mentioned, his last start against the Astros, he did allow 3 earned runs. But the Rays did get the victory there, 4-3. But prior to that, they had lost 3 out of the last 4 starts when McClanahan was on the mound for the Rays. And Lonte, you mentioned as well earlier this season against the Yankees, the Yankees were able to get to him for 4 earned runs. He allowed 5 hits to the Yankees. 2 of those 5 hits were home runs by the New York Yankees in that span. So I like the Yankees here as well, -115. Let's see if Scott here can change our minds.
I'm going with Tampa. I'm not really going to even consider taking the Yankees. Even though Cole's pitched well this season, he's 9-2. He's made 22 starts, so he mostly gets no decisions, which sounds about right because he never gets any run support, which is really the problem that I run into for the Yankees here. They did nothing at the deadline. The offense has fallen apart. They've been striking out regularly for the last couple of games, and now they're facing off against McClanahan. I know McClanahan has not been great lately, but my concern here with Cole is the fact that he's going to pitch well, probably 6 innings, 2 runs. McClanahan's going to match him, and the Yankees can't score. So I just think eventually the Rays are going to win an ugly game. I'm going to lean to the under. I see a 3-2 type game. I want to pull up Cole's numbers, though, against Tampa Bay for his entire career, because I believe Tampa's actually done pretty well against him. Let me just quickly see what I can get. Yeah, so Cole in his career is 2-7 in the win-loss record against Tampa. 3.79 ERA, which isn't awful. But in 17 starts, he's 2-7 decision-wise, which once again tells me, A, he's not getting many decisions. B, he's getting no run support when he does get decisions. I don't see them scoring for him. Like, I'm not going to pick a team that can't score. So I'm going to go with McClanahan to get back into form. It's mostly going to fade Cole. I think he'll pitch pretty well, but I do think, once again, the bullpen's been a bit iffy lately, and that's a bit of a concern. But Cole, his win-loss record against Tampa isn't very good, and I think Tampa's in better form. The Yankees, by not making any moves, might have kind of spoke volumes there by suggesting that they think either this team's good enough or it's a lost cause. They'll do it during the offseason. But this core is not good enough. Tampa's the better team, and I think that, once again, they should be able to find a way to sneak a win past the Yankees and Cole. I'm going to go with Tampa.
All right, next game on the board, the second AL East battle between the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays. It's going to be a 7:07 Eastern start. Grayson Rodriguez takes the mound for the Baltimore Orioles, and Yusei Kikuchi is on the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays. Looking at the lines for this game, the Blue Jays are a home favorite of -120 on the money line, even money on the money line for the Baltimore Orioles. Total is set at 9 with the vig towards the under at -120. Run line -1.5 +160 for the Toronto Blue Jays, and +1.5 -192 for the Baltimore Orioles. Grayson Rodriguez, since he had returned from the IL, or I think when he got sent down. He came back up and he did struggle mightily, but he's been pretty good over his last 2 starts, and they were both against AL East opponents in the New York Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. In those 2 starts, 11 2/3 innings, he allowed 6 hits and just 2 earned runs. He shut out the Yankees in his last start, and that just kind of makes Scott's point where if Grayson Rodriguez is shutting you out, you have a bigger problems with your offense. But
it wasn't even close. They lost that game 1-0. They didn't do anything the entire game.
But prior to that, he had got up against the Dodgers. He had out 4 earned runs, and the Texas Rangers, he allowed 9 earned runs. I mean, he's faced at least 4 of his last 5 starts. So he's faced above average offenses in the Rays, the Dodgers, the Rangers, and the Blue Jays. And then on the other side, you do have Kikuchi, who has been pretty good for the Toronto Blue Jays thus far this season. Looking at his numbers on the season overall, 8-3 with a 3.79 ERA at home in Toronto. He is 4-2 with a 3.69 ERA. Did face the Orioles earlier this season, twice actually, where he's allowed 5 earned runs in 9 1/3 innings pitched against the Baltimore Orioles. The Blue Jays have won 3 out of his last 4 starts, which was against the Dodgers, the Mariners, the D-backs, and the White Sox. And over his last 3 starts, he's been really solid. He's only allowed 2 earned runs, and let's see here, 15 innings, 16 innings pitched. Looking at the left-handed batting numbers for the Baltimore Orioles, at least over the last 2 weeks, they're right around league average at number 14 in most of those statistical categories. They dip down to about 15 in some of those categories as well. But I'm going to go with the Blue Jays here. I know they may be missing Bo Bichette. They got some good news as far as his knee injury that he did suffer in the Monday night game. It's nothing serious. It's just inflammation. They have him day to day. So good news for the Toronto Blue Jays there. But I'll go with the Blue Jays here. I'll trust Kikuchi at home against his Orioles team. So I'll take the Blue Jays minus 120 on the money line here, Scott.
I'm really on the fence here because I recognize that Kikuchi's been in great form recently, but with Bichette out of the lineup, I'm curious how many batters I actually like on Toronto. I got to just read off the numbers. I mean, Bichette's batting .321, which I believe is leading the American League. He's .352 on base. He has the highest slugging on the team by a decent margin. He has the highest OPS in the team by a decent margin. He's their best hitter by a country mile. And you could argue that Chapman has been pretty solid as well. I think Vlad's been underwhelming. I know that he's got a team high 66 RBIs, but I thought Vlad would have a better year, and he has not. So I'm not sure if I fully trust the rest of this overall lineup. And the Orioles have good numbers against Kikuchi, so this is really a tricky spot for me here. I think I'm just going to trust the better team. I don't know how Rodriguez is going to fare, but I think he'll do better than people anticipate since Bichette's out. I'm going to lean to Baltimore. I just have more faith in this team. They find ways to win, and once again, they're in first place in the division while Toronto's fighting for a playoff spot. Bichette's injury, even though it's only going to be a short-term thing, I think can have drastic repercussions towards the lineup. And we saw yesterday they didn't really do anything once Bichette got hurt. So yeah. I'm going to go with Baltimore. I like him in plus money.
Lonte, what do you got?
Yeah, man. So just when you start to buy into Toronto, they lose 2 straight. Offense looks bad. They were stuck on 1 run for the majority of the game yesterday. So sadly, I'm sick, so I'm going to go right back with him. I'm going to take him. Rodriguez is 24 earned runs in his last 6 starts, only allowed 2 earned in the last matchup, but he did get hit pretty hard in that game. Bichette, like Scott mentioned, him being out of the lineup, especially at the top, it kind of hurts how well they get pitched to. Kikuchi is a bet on at home, fade on the road. 2 earned runs or less than 4 of the last 5 home starts. 2 earned runs combined in his last 3 starts. 2 of those were on the road. I'll lay it here with Toronto. I'm not going to lie to you. It scares me. But again, I think they can get it going here at home against Rodriguez.
All right. Next game on the board, it's going to be a 7:45 Eastern start. The Minnesota Twins and the St. Louis Cardinals. Joe Ryan is getting the start for the Twins, but I do not see a pitcher yet for the Cardinals and no lines yet. Lonte, anything different?
Nope, I don't see anything either.
Okay, then we'll just move past this game. And then the next game, I believe there's no pitcher either. That will be the Chicago White Sox and the Texas Rangers. Dylan Cease, I am seeing getting the start here. And Lonte, you mentioned you think John Gray's getting the start here for the Rangers?
I saw him listed earlier, and then he got took down, and then I saw him listed again on a couple of sites, but I'm not 100% sure. But he has been consistently, on the docket to pitch, like as the probable pitchers. But again, you never know with some of the stuff that they have going on. I don't know what they're going to do, so it's kind of hard to tell.
All right, we'll move past those 2 games and without with undecided pitchers at least. So NL Central battle, I should say. 8:05 start for the Cincinnati Reds and the Chicago Cubbies. Brandon Williamson is getting the start here for the Cincinnati Reds, and Drew Smyly gets the start here for the Chicago Cubs. Looking at the lines for this game, I am seeing the Cubs are a minus 140 home favorite here, plus 120 on the money line for the Cincinnati Reds. No total yet, obviously, because the game is in Chicago. Waiting for the wind direction in this game.
I saw 9.5.
You just see 9.5?
Yeah, I saw 9.5.
All right, so let's go with 9.5 on the total here, and I'll try to check the win report while Lonte leads us off for this game.
Yeah, sure, man. I love the total going over. The Cubs, they're fighting only 4 games back in the loss column, if I'm not mistaken. The last I checked, I think they were 4 games back. So you got to get it going here. With a win here, they can pull back within 3. But I love the over. The last 5 meetings, including last night, they've soared over. They're going over on average of like closing total. They're going over on average of 4.4 runs in that span. The Cincinnati's 30-24 to the over on the road. Chicago 30-20 to the over at home. So that helps us in our favor, man. And Smiley, 24 earned runs in his last 6 games. He's allowed a home run in 5 of those, multi-home runs in 2 of those. He gave up 5 earned on 7 hits in the previous start versus Cincinnati, so I think they'll be able to get to him. Williamson, he's fine. I think he's okay. 4 earned runs in his last start versus the Cubs, and this was the Cubs team back when they weren't playing as well as they are now. So I love the over here. If I had to play a side, I'd lean to the Cubs. I think they can get it done at home. But my favorite play, probably my favorite play on the board, is the over in this game.
Yeah, 7-2 is the over in Drew Smiley's 9 home starts at Wrigley Field in those games. And you mentioned Brandon Williamson. He's been decent over his last 5 games, 2-1 with a 2.45 ERA, 10 walks in that span, only 19 strikeouts. So not a huge strikeout pitcher. Had a pretty decent outing against the LA Dodgers in his last start, 5 2/3, allowed 2 earned runs. Did allow 4 walks in that game. And like you mentioned, he did struggle earlier this season against the Chicago Cubs. 4 1/3, 4 earned runs, allowed 3 walks in that game as well. So it's like walks are an issue for Brandon Williamson thus far this season. So I agree about the over if it is at 9.5. You said everything about Drew Smiley. I'm not going to regurgitate everything. He did have a good start in his last start, but other than that, he's prone to giving up those runs. So I think that both offenses can continue putting up runs in this game. I'm seeing the wind is going to be blowing towards left field as of right now, but 9.5, do love the over here, Scott.
Yeah, I love the over too. Wind's blowing out, so that's definitely going to help things out. But I think my favorite play is either going to be Reds money line or Reds team total over. Yeah. For the sake of value, though, I'm going to go with the Reds money line. Just simply put, this line doesn't make any sense. I understand the argument is the Cubs are the home team, but I think Williamson is better than Smiley. I know that's a low bar, but Smiley's been terrible. They've been trying to use openers for him. He still stinks. And Williamson's been decent. Now, I'm not saying he's a great pitcher, but Munaf mentioned the last 5 starts, has a 2.45 ERA, and he's only given up one. He only has 1 game allowing a home run in his last, 6. So 5 out of 6 and no home runs allowed with the wind blowing out. I mean, he's keeping the ball in the ballpark, and Smiley is really just handing out soft contact all season long. But you're going to give me a first-place team, a better overall roster, and arguably a better starting pitcher at around plus 120, 130. I don't understand this line at all. I'm taking Cincinnati. Can you explain this to me? Because I don't get it. Why are the Reds not minus 115, minus 120 in this game?
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Yeah, that's why I'm staying away.
That line is probably going to quickly move. So if you're watching or you're with us on YouTube live right now and watching us and talking about this, you probably want to get to this line before I think it does shift maybe closer to a pick 'em by game time, or maybe probably like plus 110, plus 105 by the time we get to the trade. This game on Wednesday.
By the way,
yeah,
one thing with the wind blowing out, I want to mention that Smiley is the opposite of Williamson. He's allowed at least 1 home run in 4 straight starts.
Yeah. Lonte, you already gave the handicap, right? You got the lead off?
Yep. I had the lead. Yep.
Okay. Next game, then we have 3 games left. Let's go over to a 8:10 Eastern start. The New York Mets, they are in Kansas City to take on the Royals. Kodai Senga gets a start here for the New York Mets, and Alec Marsh is going to start here for the Kansas City Royals. Looking at the lines for this game, I'm currently seeing that the Mets are a minus 205 road favorite here, plus 170 on the money line for the Kansas City Royals. Total set at 9.5. Run line minus 1.5, minus 130 for the New York Mets, and plus 1.5, plus 110 for the Kansas City Royals here, Lonte.
Yeah, I wouldn't look anywhere but the Mets on the run line if you want to, if you don't want to lay the minus 200. I'd much rather have their team total to go over. You can't look anywhere but to them. Not with Kansas City, especially with Marsh on the mound. 18 earned runs in his last 5 starts, 4+ earned runs in 3 of his last 5, 9 home runs in a 4-game span. He also had some walk issues. He had 3+ in 3 of his last 5 starts. So not in good form here. Senga lights out in July, 5 earned runs in his 4 starts, shut down the Dodgers and Boston, 2 really good offenses, something that Kansas City doesn't have. Plain and simple, I probably think the best bet in this game is going to be the Mets team total to go over.
Yeah, 5 starts this season by Alec Marsh for the Kansas City Royals. The Royals are 0-5 in all of those starts, and they have lost 4 of those 5 starts by at least 2 earned runs. I know Kodai Senga, at least earlier in the season, was struggling on the road. His last start was in Fenway Park. Didn't last very long, 3 1/3 inning. He allowed 2 earned runs, 3 hits in that game. But the Mets were able to put up 5 runs in that game against the Red Sox, and they did get the victory. The Mets have actually won 3 of his last 4 starts when Kodai Senga is on the mound. He also had a really good outing against the Arizona Diamondbacks back on July 5th, where he went 8 innings, allowed 4 hits, had 12 strikeouts in that game against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And he's coming off a really good start as well against the Washington Nationals. 6 innings, allowed 1 earned run. 4 of his last 5 starts, Senga hasn't allowed more than 2 earned runs. And then in 3 of his last 4 starts, he's allowed exactly 1 earned run in 3 of those starts. So he looks like he's in really good form right now for the Mets. And I agree, I would go with the run line here, or probably look at the Mets team total to go over here in this game here, Scott.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I'm not going to make a case for the Royals. I know that anytime you see the Mets with a -2 for 200, that's not a good sign. But in this case, I think it's warranted. Marsh is not good. I tried to back him a couple starts ago against the Yankees. I was trying to take his strikeouts because the Yankees had just finished striking out, I don't know how many times against the Angels in that road series, but I was like, all right, Yankees are striking out all the time. Marsh will find a way. And he struck out 3 guys. And he had 2 strikes on a lot of the batters, but he has no put-away pitches. If you just watch him perform, he can't really just blow it past hitters. He relies a lot on kind of nickeling and diming corners and trying to get his off-speed stuff past hitters. And his off-speed stuff isn't great. So I think when I'm looking at this matchup, I don't think Marsh is a Major League Baseball pitcher. I think he's a AAA guy who's on a Major League roster for now, who will probably be in the minors again next year. Senga's good. Like, simply put, you can roast the Mets all you want, which is fair, but Senga's been a bright spot for this team, and I think that he's a very solid pitcher. So I'm going to go with the Mets run line. I know it's a minus price, which is not fun. I would take the first 5 instead run line, but I know that's going to be a bigger minus. But I think Marsh is going to struggle. I think Senga's going to pitch well, and that's good enough for me. I tried with Marsh. I really did. But I just can't do it. I've seen too many wasted 2-strike counts because he cannot cause any whiffs whatsoever because his stuff's just not great. I just think he's once again a AAA caliber pitcher.
Breaking news: Keenan Middleton traded to the New York Yankees. So get out those.
Is that Milton Bradley's brother? Who the hell is that?
Yeah, I don't know who that is either. That just, I think the trade deadline's like 4 Eastern, so all the trades are starting to come through here. We got Jack Flaherty there. He's heading to the Baltimore Orioles, as TVDBJ put that in the chat here. So
why is every team blowing it up besides the Yankees and besides
the Padres?
It was Middleton. Sorry, I thought he said Middleton.
Middleton.
Yeah, it was Middleton. So maybe he's Chris Middleton's brother. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. At first, I thought his name started with a K. I was like, Chris Middleton to the Yankees. Maybe that.
I love it when the Yankees can't hit and they trade for a reliever. That's good stuff. But anyway, the Flaherty move, good for the Orioles. Once again, we might do a recap of some of the trades tomorrow. So
yeah.
It's nice to see Baltimore go for it. Tell that much.
Yeah, I mean, I think we knew that Orioles probably were going to end up being buyers after they, took over the AL East lead away from the Rays.
Pham got traded. That sucks. I had him no hits tonight at +200. That's unfortunate.
Oh yeah, he's headed to the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that sucks.
And maybe just got to wait a game.
It was mostly just the $2 because he's bad against Greinke historically, and Pham should never be $2 to not record a hit. That's insane. But unfortunately, that play got voided, so it is what it is.
Last 2 games on the board. This is the 4th game that does not have a pitcher out of the 15 games. That's going to be the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants, 9:45 Eastern start. I am seeing Logan Webb is getting the start here for the San Francisco Giants against the Diamondbacks, but No official lines and no official pitcher that I see for the Diamondbacks. Lonte, anything different?
Yeah, no, I see Webb, but nobody for the D-backs and no lines at all either.
Okay, and then last game on the board, it's going to be the Oakland A's. They are in LA to take on the Dodgers, 10:10 Eastern start. I am seeing Hogan Harris is going to get the start here for the Oakland A's, and Tony Gonsolin is on the mound for the LA Dodgers. Do not see lines for this game, but let me check another site.
I didn't see any either. I see pictures, but just no lines.
Yeah, we can quickly go through the pictures and the numbers. I mean, might not be a big conversation here with the Oakland A's and the Dodgers here, but let me quickly see if there's a book that had these lines up. Yeah, nothing yet. Here, I'll just kind of lead off if you guys have anything to add. So, I mean, Hogan Harris has really just been fade material this season, 2-5 with a 6.07 ERA. The Oakland A's in his last 5 games in appearances, 3 of the 5 games he has started, 0-4 with a 7.71 ERA. On the road, his ERA is at 7.15. His last start was against the Astros, where the Astros only scored 2 runs in 6 innings pitched by Hogan Harris. And then his prior 2 starts was against the Yankees, 10-4 victory for the Yankees. And then the second start over the last 5 games against the Detroit Tigers, 9-0 victory for the Tigers. He allowed 7 earned runs and 4 2/3 innings pitched, allowed 8 hits. Walks are a huge concern for him as well. But now you're going up against arguably one of the best offenses, or better offenses, I should say, top 5 offense for sure in the LA Dodgers. So it might be tough sledding here for the Hogan Harris-led Oakland A's. Tony Gonsolin, he's been pretty subpar this season, but over the past 2 to 3 seasons when he's pitched for the Dodgers, it was automatic bet at home, especially on the run line, and that number has really regressed for him over the course of this season. He's allowed at least 4 earned runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, 18 earned runs in 25 1/3 innings pitched, 4-2 at home this season with a 4.91 ERA. So maybe the Oakland A's can get some runs off of Tony Gonsolin as well. As kind of talking through it without a total here, I would lean towards the over. That number probably comes out at 8.5, maybe possibly a 9, I would think. But I think Dodgers definitely get to Hogan Harris, and then maybe the A's are able to get to Tony Gonsolin for a few, because like I mentioned, last 5 games, 6.39 ERA. He's allowed at least 4 earned runs in 4 of his last 5 starts to the opposition. Lonte, anything to add there?
No, I'm in complete agreement with you on the over, depending on what the number is, obviously. But the A's 5+ runs in 2 of the last 3 games. I mean, it was Colorado, but if you're as bad as the A's, you got to take what you can get. So that's a win. I also would probably look at the A's first 5. Not really a big Gonsolin guy. He ran over his numbers. Won't regurgitate those. Yeah, but I think both teams can score here. I think we see some runs off both pitchers. So I'm with you on the over as long as it comes out at a respectable number.
Scott, anything to add?
Not really. I think the Dodgers are going to bury him this series, so I'm going to lean to the Dodgers. Probably, 1.5. I don't know how big of the minus is going to be because they're at home. So it's going to be a minus, but it's always factored in because they might not bat in the 9th. I got nothing good to say about Hogan Harris. I like his name. I guess that counts for something. But, Gonsolin has not been great this year, but he's been fine, at least comparatively speaking. Dodgers had a pretty underwhelming series there against the Reds over the weekend. Now they get to take care of business against the Athletics, who are, once again, not a good team. They were fortunate to face off against the Rockies in Colorado, and they still got shut out by the Rockies on Sunday, which I don't know how that happens. But I do think you're looking at the Dodgers to get back on track here. They'll win comfortably. It's also a good opportunity to potentially extend their division lead. I know the Dodgers are around -800 to win the division right now, but they're only 2.5 up. They're priced like they're 7 games up right now, and they're not. They could use some extra breathing room, and I think that this is a good series to do it. I'll take the Dodgers to win this entire series comfortably.
All right, so that is the last game on the board. 15 games on the schedule for Wednesday. And again, 4 games we didn't have pitchers for. That was the Astros game, the Cardinals game, the Rangers game, and then the Diamondbacks and the Giants game. No pitchers there. But last order of business before we wrap up this episode, gentlemen, that is going to be our lock and dog for the Wednesday games. Scott, you want to lead us off?
Sure. So for my lock on the show, I'm trying to think of which play that I want to go with. I know what my dog's going to be, but I got to just see
I know what
which.
your dog is going to be too.
I mean, I can go the one day I'm ready for my lock and dog.
All right, Lonte, why don't you lead us off then?
All right, so look, I'm going over in Chicago, Cincinnati, 9.5. I'm going over that. I mentioned both teams having success against the opposing pitchers. Just in case you just skip fast forward to the best bet section, we got 24 earned runs in the last 6 games for Smiley. He gave up 5 earned on 7 hits in the previous start versus Cincinnati. Williamson 4 earned in his last start versus Chicago. I think both teams are going to have similar success here. Chicago 30-20 to the over, Cincinnati 30-24 on the road to the over. So I think we see some runs here. So give me the over 9.5. All 5 games have went over in this matchup by 4.4 runs, like an average of 4.4 runs in each game. So I think the over hits again here for my lock. For the dog, I'm going to go to Boston. I think they are going to turn it around here. Seattle, I'm not really a big fan of. I know they've been playing really good baseball as of late, but Crawford's been really good on the road. 2 earned runs or less in 10 of his last 11 road starts. 3 earned runs combined in his last 3 road starts. So he's been in good form. I think the bats are always going to be there for Boston. So give me Boston plus 113, plus 114-ish. Anything above plus 105, I think, is a good bet.
All right. Scott, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. So for the lock, I'm going to go back to the first game we actually talked about. I'm going to go with the Angels team total over. I'm assuming it's going to be at 4.5. Line's at 10.5, and the Braves are around minus 160. So it should be roughly 5.5, 4.5, if I had to guess. I don't think Trinos is that good, and he has not exactly been that experienced with the Braves ballpark. He was not good in his first start with them. And the Angels offensively have actually been decent lately. So I do think that once again, the road team getting 9 at-bats. It is a day game, and to go through the actual weather report in Atlanta, it's going to be pretty neutral, so it's not really going to matter that much. But I think when you're looking at this pitcher, I'm not sold on, and the Angels offensively have been in good form lately. I'll go with the Angels team total over as my lock at 4.5. And for my dog, give me the Reds. I'm just simply going to fade Smiley. I can't believe Smiley's laying 140 and change against a first-place team in baseball. Smiley's bad. Like, I don't know what more you want me to say. He just has not been good for the last couple of months. And you're looking at Williamson, his ERA is in the mid-2s for the last month, so he's been better. And the Cubs, they went on a good run to avoid trading away Bellinger and some other guys. In hindsight, it's going to be a really dumb move because I still don't think this team's making the playoffs, so I think they're just wasting their time. But for the sake of this, the Reds are a good baseball team. The Cubs are a mediocre baseball team that have been on a bit of a hot streak. I'll take the better team at like plus 130. I think that's an insane price. Give me the Reds.
All right. For my lock, I'll go with the Milwaukee Brewers minus 125 on the money line with
That was my runner-up.
Yeah, Wade Miley and on the mound for the Brewers against Mackenzie Gore in the Nationals. Just simply put, Nationals just haven't been very good at homes thus far this season, or overall they haven't been very good. But for whatever reason, they haven't been very good at home either. But Miley's in great form right now, like we mentioned. Mackenzie Gore has been struggling over his last 5 starts as well. And the Brewers have been doing pretty well against left-handed pitching, at least over the last 2 weeks when I talked about their offensive numbers against left-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks. So, and again, they're 1.5 games behind for that division lead. So again, going up against one of the lesser teams of the National League, you want to pile up these wins as many as you can, and at a minus 125 price with the Brewers, I'll take them on the money line. For my dog, you know what? Well, let's roll some dice here. Give me the Colorado Rockies, man. Plus 180.
Let's go, Munaf. Let's go.
Look, I know Kyle Freeland hasn't been the greatest or hasn't having the greatest season for the Rockies this season, but the Padres are just in a downward spiral. I mean, they have been over the past several, weeks, maybe even the last month. I know Scott talked about what transpired in game 1 of this series between the Padres and the Rockies, and I think that's
believe it.
And that's just kind of been a microcosm of their season of what's been going on in San Diego. But I know Joe Musgrove has been in really good form. But Kyle Freeland, for whatever reason, has had 2 great starts against his Padres team. And, We mentioned the stat about the Padres being north of a minus 160 or minus 180 favorite. They've lost, I think, 7-8 straight games. If you want to include the Monday night game, it should be around 8 or 9 straight games that they've lost as that big of a favorite. If you don't want to take the money line, if you want to take the run line for the Rockies, that's even at plus 125 right now, plus 1.5. So you can start the game with a 1-0 lead with the Rockies and see what goes. But I'll roll the dice here on a Wednesday afternoon. Give me the Rockies plus 180 on the money line against the San Diego Padres. All right, gentlemen, that is going to do it for this edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Not really. Trade deadline's passing, and the Yankees traded for one reliever, so it's not a fun time to be a Yankees fan. Is what it is, though. Once again, minus 320 to miss the playoffs. Throw it into whatever parlay you want, because it should be minus $8. So if you want to throw that into some football parlays, little boost there, I don't mind it. But I know we gave out the Yankees to miss the playoffs right around the All-Star break at like plus 120 or something. So that's probably going to cash. We'll see what happens, but yeah, trade deadline's always fun. We might do 2 episodes tomorrow, so keep an eye out for it.
Yeah, I know some of the trades are still rolling in for some of these teams. So we'll maybe do a bonus episode and kind of highlight some of the big moves that were made and how the odds have shifted for at least the contenders. I know the Astros and Verlander and Jack Flaherty to the O's. And
did you like that move, by the way? I know getting Verlander back is fun, but you did give up a couple of big prospects for a guy with that's up there in years.
So the tipping point for me, which I was A-okay with for the Astros, is that the Mets are sending $54 million.
That's what I assumed would happen. Okay.
Yeah, to the Astros for that total of $93 million if that vested option is picked up.
And I know did that with Scherzer to Texas. They gave away a lot of the money for.
Yeah, so I know they gave up the number 1 and number 4 overall prospects to the Astros, but I think we all kind of knew, like baseball fans, that Verlander and Scherzer were going to be on the move, and I think Verlander coming back to the Astros just made a lot of sense because we talked about, you and I, Scott, talked about it, that the pitching rotation for the Astros hasn't been the most healthy, and they needed a frontline starter. And you bring back a familiar face that has won, multiple World Series titles with you, and he already knows what's going on with his Astros organization, so he'll be the day one ace, or coming back and being that number 1 ace for this Astros team, especially when I know you guys talk about Framber Valdez struggling as well. So that kind of gives him some protection as well in the pitching rotation. So
that was another bet I wanted to mention, by the way. I found the Astros to win the AL at plus 375. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for one more starting pitcher. That's all I needed.
Yeah.
Now they got it.
I knew they were going to make a move. Like they do it every single year, when they're in contention. It was just going to be a matter of who. So I picked up some 10-1 tickets for them to win the World Series. So hopefully they can go back to back. We'll see. But yeah, we'll get more in depth. Maybe do something early tomorrow. We'll figure it out, but we'll tweet it out and put it in the Discord as well. But yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter at MLB SGPN. Make sure to subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. And again, make sure to follow Scott on Twitter at Reichel Radio. And you can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time for the Thursday games. And again, look out for that bonus episode to recap some of the trades that did transpire at the trade deadline for the MLB. Good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.